There comes a moment in your life, quiet but undeniable, when everything around you seems to slow down, when the noise fades just enough for you to hear that one question echoing deep inside your soul. How bad do you really want it? Not the version of you that talks about dreams when it's comfortable, not the version that gets excited when things are going well, but the real you, the one that shows up when it's dark, when it's uncertain, when every excuse in the world is knocking on your door, begging you to quit, because wanting something casually is easy. Everybody wants success when it's convenient. Everybody wants greatness when it doesn't cost them anything. But the truth is, the kind of life you dream about, the kind of impact you imagine, the kind of legacy you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening, it demands something far deeper. It demands a hunger so intense, so relentless, that it begins to redefine who you are. It demands that you want it more than comfort, more than sleep, more than approval, more than fear, more than you want to breathe, more than you want to breathe, they got. And that's where most people fall apart, not because they're not talented, not because they're not capable, but because they underestimate the level of desire required to transform their lives. They think showing up occasionally is enough. They think effort is something you turn on and off like a switch. But life doesn't work that way. Dreams don't respond to half-hearted commitment. Success doesn't reward hesitation, and greatness has a price that most people aren't willing to pay. Because the truth is, when you're chasing something extraordinary, you will feel exhausted. You will feel alone. You will question everything about yourself. That will be nights when doubt sits heavy on your chest, making it hard to breathe, and mornings when getting out of bed feels like lifting the weight of the world. And in those moments when nothing makes sense and everything feels impossible, your desire is the only thing you have left. Not motivation, not inspiration, but raw, burning desire. Think about what it means to truly want something. Not just saying, not just posting about it, but living it, feeling it in your bones, carrying it with you everywhere you go. It's the difference between interest and obsession. Interest shows up when it's easy. Obsession shows up no matter what. Interest fades when things get difficult. Obsession grows stronger in the face of resistance. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know which side you have been living on. You already know the moments where you chose comfort over growth, where you chose distraction over discipline, where you convinced yourself that tomorrow would be a better day to start. But tomorrow doesn't build your future. What you do right now does. There's a story of a young man who once approached a wise mentor, desperate for success, asking him the secret to achieving greatness. The mentor didn't give him a speech. He didn't hand him a book. Instead, he told him to meet him by the ocean at sunrise. Confused but determined, the young man showed up the next morning, expecting wisdom, expecting guidance. The mentor walked him into the water, deeper and deeper until it reached their shoulder. And just when the young man was about to ask what this had to do with success, the mentor suddenly grabbed his head and pushed it underwater. Seconds passed, then more seconds. Panic set in. The young man began to struggle, desperate for air, his body screaming, his mind racing, his entire being focused on one thing and one thing only: breathing. And just before he lost control, the mentor pulled him back up, gasping for air. The young man looked at him in shock, anger, confusion. And the mentor asked him one simple question: when you were under the water, what did you want more than anything? The young man replied without hesitation, air. And the mentor said, when you want success as badly as you wanted that air, you will have it. That's the level, that's the standard, that's the intensity most people never reach. Because wanting something that badly means sacrifice. It means letting go of the version of yourself that seeks comfort. It means embracing the version of yourself that thrives in discomfort. It means waking up when you don't feel like it, pushing forward when you don't see results, staying disciplined when everything inside you is begging you to quit. It means understanding that pain is temporary, but regret lasts a lifetime. And history is filled with people who understood this at a level that most not even imagine. People who face rejection, failure, and doubt over and over again, but refuse to let go of their vision. There was a man who failed countless times before he finally created something that would change the world. A man who was told again and again that his ideas were impossible. that his efforts were pointless, that he should just give up and accept reality. But he didn't. He kept going, not because it was easy, but because his desire was stronger than his fear. Because he wanted it more than he wanted comfort. Because he understood that every failure wasn't the end, it was a step closer to the breakthrough. And that's the shift you have to make. You have to stop seeing obstacles and start seeing them as proof that you're on the right path. Because nothing worth having comes easy. Nothing meaningful is built overnight. Every great story is filled with moments of doubt, moments of struggle, moments where everything seems to fall apart. But those moments are not there to stop you. They are there to test you, to see if you really want it, to see if your desire is strong enough to carry you through the storm. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how talented you are. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how much you're willing to endure. It's about how far you're willing to go. It's about whether you're willing to keep moving forward when there's no guarantee of success, no applause, no recognition. It's about whether you can look at your circumstances, no matter how difficult, and still say, I'm not done yet. And if you can reach that point, if you can build that level of hunger inside of you, then everything begins to change. Your mindset shifts, your habits evolve. Your actions become aligned with your purpose. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it. You stop making excuses and start making progress. You stop fearing failure and start using it as fuel. Because when you want something more than you want to breathe, quitting is no longer an option. It's not even a thought. It disappears from your vocabulary entirely. And suddenly the person you once thought you could never become starts to become your reality. The difference between the people who rise and the people who remain stuck is never talent alone, and it is never luck alone. It is the fire they are willing to carry when everything around them is trying to put it out. Because there comes a point in every journey where motivation disappears, where inspiration no longer feels enough, where no video, no speech, no advice can pull you forward. And in that silence, in that emptiness, only one thing decides your direction, your raw and uncompromising desire to keep going. Not because someone is watching, not because someone is clapping, but because something inside you refuses to die quietly. There was a time when Thomas Edison worked through thousands of failed experiments while trying to create the light bulb. And each failure didn't weaken him, it refined him. People around him called it madness. They said it was a waste of time. They mocked the idea of chasing something that refused to exist. But Edison didn't measure progress by public opinion. He measured it by persistence. He once said he had not failed. He had simply found thousands of ways that didn't work. And that mindset, that refusal to interpret failure as defeat, became the foundation of one of the greatest inventions in human history. Because when your desire becomes stronger than your disappointment, failure loses its authority over you. And then there was Abraham Lincoln, a man whose life was a continuous battlefield of rejection. He failed in business. He lost elections repeatedly. He faced personal tragedies that would have broken most people beyond repair. Yet each time life pushed him down, he refused to stay down. There was nothing glamorous about his struggle, nothing cinematic about his pain in the moment he was living in. He was simply a man carrying a vision that was bigger than his circumstances. And that vision kept pulling him forward, even when everything visible suggested he should stop. Eventually, he rose to become one of the most influential leaders in history, not because his path was easy, but because his desire to serve a purpose was stronger than his fear of failure. This is the part most people never understand. They think success is built in moments of confidence, in bursts of energy, in times when everything feels aligned. But the truth is, success is built in silence, in rejection, in loneliness, and the days when nobody is clapping, nobody is watching, and nobody even believes in you. It is built in the moments when you are forced to choose between giving up and growing up. And every single time you choose growth, even when it hurts, even when it feels pointless, even when no immediate reward is visible, you are reshaping your identity. Because discipline is not what you do when you feel strong. Discipline is what you do when you feel weak and still refuse to quit. Sacrifice is not about losing something. It is about exchanging what you want now for what you want most. And consistency is not about intensity in a single day. It is about showing up again and again when the excitement is gone and only responsibility remains. This is where real transformation happens, not in motivation, but in repetition. not in inspiration, but in execution. There was also Walt Disney, a man who was once told that he lacked imagination, that he had no creativity, and that his ideas would never succeed in the real world. He was fired from a newspaper job because of his so-called lack of creativity, a judgment that today feels almost unbelievable considering the empire his vision eventually created. But what separated Disney from those who doubted him was not the absence of failure. It was the refusal to accept failure. He has identity. He didn't say, I am not creative because I was rejected. He said, I will keep creating until the world cannot ignore what I see in my mind. And that shift from reaction to responsibility is what turned rejection into revolution. And now understand this deeply. Your life will always try to define you through moments, a bad result, a missed opportunity, a rejection, a setback. But those moments are not definitions, they are tests. They are not telling you who you are, they are asking you who you are willing to become. And most people fail not because they are incapable, but because they accept temporary pain as permanent identity. They let a single chapter convince them that the entire book is over. But if you are still breathing, if you are still here, if you still have even a flicker of desire inside you, then your story is not finished. It is still being written, and the pen is in your hands, not in your circumstances. Every decision you make is a sentence. Every action is a paragraph. Every day is a new page. And the question is not whether life is hard, because it will be. The question is whether your desire is strong enough to outlast that hardness, whether your vision is powerful enough to survive the storm of reality. Because at some point, you have to stop negotiating with your excuses. You have to stop waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect mood, the perfect environment. Those things do not exist. What exists is now. And now is the only moment where transformation is possible. You don't change your life tomorrow. You don't build discipline in theory. You build it in action, in discomfort, in repetition, in choosing what is right over what is easy, even when no one is forcing you to. And slowly, almost without noticing it at first, something begins to shift inside you. The same problems that once broke you start to strengthen you. The same pressure that once crushed you starts to shape you. The same doubts that once controlled you start to lose their voice. And you begin to realize something powerful. You are not who you were when you started. You are becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone who understands that the path was never supposed to be easy. It was supposed to make you unbreakable. And now you reach a point where everything in your life begins to demand a decision from you, not a small decision, not a temporary one, but a defining decision that quietly separates the version of you that dreams from the version of you that actually becomes. Because there is always a gap between intention and transformation. And that gap is filled only by action repeated so consistently that it becomes part of your identity. This is where most people hesitate because they are willing to admire greatness, but not willing to endure the process that creates it. They want the outcome without the evolution, the reward without the struggle, the success without the sacrifice. But life does not negotiate with desire. It responds only to commitment. There is something powerful that happens when you start treating your vision like something non-negotiable. The world doesn't change overnight, but you change in a way that makes the world start reacting differently to you. You begin to wake up earlier, not because you are forced to, but because your purpose starts pulling you out of sleep. You begin to work when others rest, not because you are trying to prove something, but because something inside you refuses to settle for average. And slowly, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like identity. You are no longer someone trying to be successful. You are someone who cannot afford not to be. Think about the people you admire most, not just for what they achieved, but for what they endured. Every one of them went through seasons where nothing made sense, where progress was invisible, where the world saw no results, but they kept moving anyway. That invisible season is where most people quit, not at the finish line, but in the middle of uncertainty, where effort feels meaningless and outcomes feel distant. But that is exactly where transformation is forged. Because if you can stay consistent when nothing is working, you will be unstoppable when things finally start aligning. And this is where mindset becomes everything, because your mind will always try to protect you from discomfort. It will whisper reasons to stop. It will create logic around quitting. It will disguise fear as practicality. It will tell you to wait for better timing, more energy, more clarity. But clarity does not come before movement. It comes because of movement. You don't think your way into discipline, you act your way into it. You don't feel your way into consistency. You build it through repetition until it becomes automatic. There was a time when Henry Ford faced constant failure in his early ventures. Long before the automobile became a revolution, people around him saw failure after failure and assumed the idea itself was flawed. But Ford was not chasing approval. He was chasing creation. He understood something most people miss entirely. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process that builds it. Each setback refined his thinking, each obstacle forced innovation, each rejection sharpened his focus. And eventually, what once looked impossible became a reality that reshaped the entire world of transportation. Now bring that same understanding into your own life. Every delay you experience is not denial, it is development. Every closed door is not rejection, it is redirection. Every moment you feel stuck is not proof that you are incapable, it is proof that you are in the middle of becoming. But becoming is uncomfortable because it requires you to let go of who you used to be before you can fully step into who you are meant to become. And most people resist that transition because it demands too much honesty, too much effort, too much patience. But here is the truth that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Your future self is not built in imagination, it is built in execution. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are shaping that future self. Every time you push through resistance instead of avoiding it, you are strengthening that identity. And every time you stay consistent when nobody is watching, you are proving to yourself that your desire is real, not theoretical. And as this process continues, something deep begins to shift. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, how far can I go? You stop measuring your progress against others and start measuring it against your own potential. You stop waiting for validation and start relying on eternal conviction. Because once your desire reaches a certain level of intensity, external approval becomes irrelevant. The only thing that matters is forward movement. There will still be days when you feel tired, days when doubt returns, days when progress feels slow. But the difference is that you no longer interpret those moments as signs to quit. You understand them as part of the journey because anything meaningful will test you. Anything valuable will challenge you. Anything worth building will demand more from you than you initially thought you had to give. And in those moments when everything feels heavy, when the weight of your dreams feels almost too much to carry, you must remember why you started. Not the surface level reason, not the temporary motivation, but the deep reason that lives beneath everything else. The reason that still exists even when no one believes in you, even when results are absent, even when the path looks uncertain. That reason is what will carry you forward when everything else falls away. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about success. It is about identity. It is about becoming someone who does not break under pressure, someone who does not abandon themselves when things get difficult, someone who keeps moving forward even when the path is unclear. And that kind of person is not born. It is built slowly, painfully, repeatedly, through choices that most people are not willing to make. And once you reach that level, once your desire becomes deeper than fear, once your commitment becomes stronger than doubt, once your vision becomes clearer than distraction, something powerful happens. You no longer chase light. You begin to lead it. And now, everything you have heard, everything you have felt, everything that has been building inside you through every word of this journey, it all comes down to this single moment of truth. Not a moment of emotion, not a moment of motivation, not a moment of motion, not a moment of motivation, but a moment of decision where you finally stop standing at the edge of your life and step fully into it. Because there is a version of you that already exists beyond your doubt, beyond your fear, beyond your hesitation, and that version of you is not waiting for permission, it is waiting for commitment. You have to understand something deeply, something most people never truly accept until it is too late. Life does not reward potential, it rewards action. It does not care what you could become. It only responds to what you consistently do. And every excuse you accept, every delay you justify, every moment you choose comfort over growth, you are slowly building a life that feels heavy, not because you are incapable, but because you are not fully engaged with your own potent. There is a fire inside every human being, But for most people, that fire is only a flicker because they keep pouring doubt on it, pouring fear on it, pouring distraction on it until it becomes something barely visible. But for those rare individuals who decide to protect that fire, who decide to feed it instead of suffocating it, it's something extraordinary begins to happen. They stop living reactively and start living intentionally. They stop waiting for life to happen and start shaping life themselves. And this is where everything changes. Because when your desire becomes stronger than your excuses, you no longer need external motivation. You become self-propelled. You wake up with purpose. Even when you are tired, you move forward even when the path is unclear. You keep building even when results are delayed. Not because it is easy, but because quitting no longer feels like an option your identity allows. Think about the strongest moments in your life, not the easiest ones. Think about the times you thought you would break but didn't. Those moments were not accidents, they were glimpses of who you really are when everything unnecessary is stripped away. And if you survive those moments, if you endured those storms, then what makes you believe you cannot endure what comes next? The truth is, you are stronger than your current situation, but you have to prove it to yourself through action, not thought. There will always be voices in your mind telling you to slow down, to wait, to reconsider, to avoid discomfort. But greatness never came from comfort zones. Nothing transformative was ever built inside safety. Every breakthrough in human history happened on the other side of fear, on the other side of exhaustion, on the other side of doubt. And every person you admire today once stood exactly where you are standing, wondering if they were capable, questioning if they were not, struggling with the same internal battles you face right now. The difference is they moved anyway. And now it comes down to this: not talent, not opportunity, not timing, but willingness to keep going when it hurts. Willingness to keep going when it hurts. Willingness to stay consistent when nobody notices. Willingness to believe in something long enough for it to become real. Because belief without action is imagination, but belief with action becomes transformation. This is the point where you must stop negotiating with your future. You must stop treating your dreams like hobbies and start treating them like responsibilities. Because deep down, you already know what you are capable of, but knowing is not enough. You have to become it through repetition, through discipline, through persistence that refuses to bend even when life applies pressure. And as you step into this mindset, something powerful begins to shift inside you. You stop being intimidated by what you lack and start being guided by what you desire. You stop measuring your progress by speed and start measuring it by direction. You stop asking if it is possible and start asking what is required. And that shift alone begins to reshape your entire reality. Because at some point you realize something life-changing. You don't need more time, you need more commitment. You don't need perfect conditions, you need consistent action. You don't need the world to believe in you. You need to believe so strongly in yourself that doubt no longer has space to exist. And when that belief becomes unshakable, when that desire becomes unstoppable, when that inner voice becomes louder than every external limitation, you finally reach the place where everything aligns. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. So when you feel tired, when you feel uncertain, when you feel like giving up, remember this truth: you were not created to live small. You were not designed to stay stuck. And you were not meant to quit on yourself halfway through becoming who you are meant to be. But you are built for more than comfort, more than excuses, more than average existence. You're built for moments like this, where you decide that no matter how hard it gets, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times you fall, you will rise again. Because the version of you that wins, the version of you that succeeds, the version of you that becomes unstoppable is not somewhere far away in the future. That version is created right here, right now, in this exact decision to keep going when everything inside you says stop. And if you can hold on to that, if you can carry that fire, even when it feels like it is fading, if you can want your future more than you fear your present, then there is nothing in this world that can stop you. Because when you truly want it more than you want comfort, more than you want ease, more than you want safety, when you want it more than you want to breathe, you don't just chase success anymore. You become it